So that is one part of my presentation. And the other part that we're going to be talking about is survival instincts. We talked about how important they are, how forceful they are, and if we don't take charge of our lives, they do. Okay, so this is part one of my slide presentation on the topic of the proposal. This is the proposal that I'm talking about, and let me raise the visibility of this thing a little bit further. The proposal is based upon our research of the last 20 years, in which we researched the scriptures of the word, and we found, as far as the existence of the universe and the existence of a human being is concerned, as far as the behavior of a human being is concerned, they all are in agreement. They are all in agreement, and they merge with each other. And not only that they are in agreement, they are also in agreement with science. So this convergence of the scriptural wisdom with each other and with science is what is driving the proposal. And it is so powerful that it kind of revolutionizes the way we can talk about spirituality. The existence consists of mind and matter, in other words, consciousness and energy. Spiritual wisdom says that the total existence of mind and matter is from the spirit, which is invisible. Science talks about energy being the source of all the material world. And spirituality talks about energy and consciousness as being inseparable, just like two sides of the same coin. So they're all, science and spirituality seems to be in total agreement with each other. And mind you, Einstein, who came up with the thought, which he proved mathematically, that matter is from energy, was not an experimental scientist. He worked with his own mind. He worked with contemplation. He was a contemplative scientist, and no experimental scientist could get there through experiments. They could get there through contemplation. So what our rational faculties of sense perception show us is not the whole story. Okay, so the eyes of the mind that we use in our rational learning don't tell the whole story, because not everything meets the eye. And when we use the eyes of the mind as in contemplation we do, then there is no boundaries to what we can discover. Mind can lead you astray, so can the eyes of the body can. They both can lead you astray. That's why they have experiments. You have to authenticate what you come up with the means of authentication at the disposal of humanity. Okay, so experiments are a way of authenticating. those things that with which we can experiment. Something which is invisible, the perceptible universe of matter, is from energy, which in itself is invisible. Okay? Something which is invisible, you cannot observe it in an experiment. So the only way you can experience it is not with the eyes of the mind, is with the eyes of, sorry, not with the eyes of the body, but with the eyes of the mind in contemplation. And that's what we need to do. We supplement the learning with the eyes of the body with learning we can do with the eyes of the mind. So the learning that we do in today's world is only with the eyes of the body. Okay? And what we are proposing is that we also are taught to learn with the eyes of the mind. Okay, when we learn with both, we get a total picture. We get a whole world view rather than a partial world view that can be supplied by the eyes of the body. So that is, in a nutshell, what we are proposing. The proposal body is consists of one page of the executive summary, and then an explanation under different headings in about 12 pages that follow. And there is a list of references that I use, and that list is there in the proposal. And that proposal, if you have not already downloaded it from the website, is available from the website for you to download. I'll show you, I'll take a minute and give you, take you on a journey of the proposal, of the website. And so please download it, print it, and read it. But I have talked about the basis of the whole thing. The basis of the proposal is that eyes of the body do not give us the full story. We only get a partial worldview, and that partial worldview is divisive. Eyes of the mind can integrate the divisiveness of the eyes of the body. With the eyes of the body, I can only see definite things with separative contours. I cannot see the connection between those separate identities that the eyes of the body can show us. And the senses are, we are bombarded by it day after day after day. All day we live in our waking lives, senses are operating. We see divisiveness, we see individuals, we don't see connections between them. Even when we are sleeping, we dream. And what are we using in our dreams? The eyes of the body again, divisiveness, even when we are sleeping. Okay? Unless we contemplate, we cannot develop the whole worldview. We talk of love so much. Our eyes of the body keep us divided all the time, and they are being driven by our survival instincts. Okay? It's really the survival instincts that drive us. They are forceful drivers working through the eyes of the body all the time. And if we want to make love a reality, we got to start learning with the eyes of the mind also in contemplation. That's where the integration happens. Okay. Now, where have this kind of education, where was it used? Are we just dreaming, or have we got any experience of using this kind of education? This kind of education in unity and diversity is what Einstein talked about. He said a human being is a part of the whole, called by us universe, a part limited to time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings as something separate from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of consciousness. The striving of the striving to free oneself from this delusion is the issue of true religion. Not to nourish it, but to try to overcome it as the way to reach the attainable measure of peace of mind. This is Einstein speaking, the scientist. And a contemplative is not coming from a prophet. We have three ways of knowing: listening, reflecting, and contemplation, depending upon how profound the teaching is. Something that is survival oriented, we don't have to think about it too much. We can just listen to an idea and understand it. Some things which are a little more abstract than mere survival, we have to reflect on it. That reflection is a practice of living in a waking state. When we are awake, we can reflect. But even then, the instincts that separate us, they color the truth that we can uncode. When matters are very, abstract, like the whole universe coming from one source, which is unseen, that profound, we need to contemplate. And contemplative state is something that we can enter with our own effort. In a waking state, that is natural. Sleeping state is natural. Well, dreaming state is natural. But contemplative state, we have to make an effort to enter into it. And that is the subject that we want to add to our learning that we are, that we experience right now. Right now, it is only the divisive learning through eyes of the body, and we want to go to the unitive learning through the eyes of the mind as well. Both are important. They both must be very wisely balanced.
Bayaji, you've got 5 more minutes. Sorry. Just keep me
5 more minutes? Okay.
Yeah.
What we have, when it comes to black and white and, liquids and solids coming from the same source, very paradoxical, very way of thinking. We don't think of those matters every day. So that is what contemplation makes you do. They make you integrate the paradoxical learning that express reality. Solids and liquids and gases are from the same cause. Okay, monkeys and man and mosquitoes are from the same cause. Rocks and rivers and waters and hills and Himalayas are from the same cause. Very difficult for eyes of the body to give you an experience of that. The eyes of the mind can give you an experience of that. And only our personal experience guide our life. If we experience the unity behind diversity, that is how we will live. Even if that experience is brief experience, that can change our lives. So coming to where was this kind of education used? India was the first country where this kind of education was used, when India had this culture of contemplation. The Sanskrit word is dhyana. When we had a culture of dhyana, living with the dhyana, living in dhyana, then we were people of knowledge. Computer age is considered to be a knowledge society. Knowledge doesn't come from computers. Knowledge doesn't come from information. You have to integrate information to get knowledge. Senses give you information. You have to contemplate, integrate that knowledge, information to produce knowledge. So contemplation gives you a knowledge society, not the fact that you can run computers and you can post videos or whatever have you. So this is the olden age of India. You can say that that age that influenced India until about, maybe 1500, 1600. And then as humanity is, everything that goes up comes down. We did come down because we lost the culture of contemplation. How about modern age? The Nordic countries, there are 5 countries of the Nordic region which use the German Bildung model of education. Okay, and Bildung model of education is based upon Humboldtian thought. Humboldt was the founder of the University of Berlin, and he was a philosopher in his own right. And what he said, that people can learn to be carpenters and plumbers and electricians and teachers and whatnot, and they'll be better carpenters and better electricians if they're better human beings. And what is essential is the cultivation of mind and character that has to be learned with contemplation. Cultivation of mind and character. That is what contemplation does. And that is the most important thing. We can learn the skills, but if we miss the chance to learn a practice that will cultivate our mind and our character, nobody can cultivate somebody else's mind and character. We've been trying to teach 10 commandments last 2,000 years, but very unsuccessfully. You know this degree of success that we have achieved. But with contemplation, we can achieve that in a much shorter span of time. And that is the proposal that we are making, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you. It's contemplative learning of metaphysics, scripture, as well as science. The metaphysics is the science of existence. Science of existence from the spirit. How do we come into existence? According to metaphysics, we come into existence, the universe comes into existence just like us coming into existence. How did I come into existence? I exist because of one cell at conception that I was, infinitesimal. You have to see that cell under a very powerful microscope. And that cell starts to grow. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, like that, continues growing. And now I have 37.2 trillion cells in my body. From 1 cell, the growth, to 37.2 trillion cells. Okay, so existence, metaphysics thinks that the universe exists the same way. From a human cell, a human person is born. From a monkey cell at conception, monkeys are born. From a bird cell at conception, a bird is born. But metaphysics, according to it, there is kind of existence from which the whole universe forms. Okay, and that existence is like the 1 cell I was, very infinitesimal. When it comes to the existence of the universe, that reality from which the universe is born is totally invisible. Okay, from an invisible reality, the whole material world, the invisible reality called energy, science says the whole material world is born, and from an invisible reality called the spirit, metaphysics says the whole universe is born. Okay, so that wisdom of metaphysics is the wisdom that our scriptures use. Okay, from the spirit, the whole universe is born. Just like my 1 cell grows to be 37.2 trillion cells, the same thing happens in the universe. My 1 cell, as it grows into many, it starts to self-organize. Okay, some of my cells become heart cells, some become eye cells, some become skin cells. When the growth is from the spirit, some become humans, some becomes rocks, some becomes whatever. So that is self-organization that happens in the universe as compared to self-organization that happens in me when I grow. And what are these survivor instincts? That is one thing that we must understand. By nature, they're very forceful and they are divisive. We'll talk about how they get to be divisive as we go along. They are so powerful that they hijack our consciousness and keep us divided. We must free our consciousness from them. They are very tyrannical rulers of our consciousness. Okay, so we've got to grow to become masters of our own life, in charge of our own being. If we don't do that, our survival instincts will be glad to take over. So if we ask ourselves the question, why can't I live in peace and harmony? It's an age-old question, considered many times all over the world. Our sages, seers, prophets thought about it. Religions are meant to answer this question, but the question still remains. Why? Because survival instincts. We are born with them. Life in nature is born to survive, sustain, live, and propagate. And those instincts are built into us. They become part of our genetic memory. So we remember through our genes, which we get from our parents, they got from their parents, they got from their parents, so on, all the way back to the very first life cell that God created. So that is called genetic inheritance. We genetically inherit and inhere those survival instincts for billions of years. As long as there are genes, there is genetic continuity. They work unconsciously without awareness, stealthily driving behavior lifelong if we don't do anything about them. If you look at primitive instincts, they are programmed to survive. Survival needs sustenance, and they're programmed to procreate. And all of that is unconscious. The only consciousness that primitive instincts have, they have some sense of sensing danger so that they can keep on living, and some sense of sensing food that will keep them alive, and some sense of procreation. Okay, that is built in. And from one creature, another is born, and so on and so forth. And gradually we become animals. Life form becomes animals. What happens? Their characteristic, the animal characteristic, is herd identity. They feel safe with their own kind. Okay, so we have the creaturely survival and sustenance, procreation, and herd identity. Survival and sustenance is the most basic instinct. Instincts become our needs. Okay, the most basic instinct is the most basic need of animals. Then procreation. Once stomach is full and there's no danger, then what? This is the entertainment. And when everything is threatened, we want to get to the safety of the herd. Identity. Okay, so identity need is the lowest need, but the most basic need is survival and sustenance. And then come humans. Okay, now we have the survival and sustenance and procreation of the creatures. We have herd identity of the animals, and we have another characteristic, and that is love and belonging. Okay, that love and belonging could be limited or unlimited. Okay, the limitation of love and belonging to family and community is because of connection with these instincts. Okay, these are called survival instincts: identity, procreation, survival, and sustenance. They are survival instincts. They restrict our love and belonging to our own community, which is a little better than herd instinct in animals, but not a lot better. We can get out of that constriction of ours. This is what our friend Einstein called the optical delusion, and get past to a possibility of unconditional love. Okay, if we can somehow control the ferocity of our identity, procreation, the survival and sustenance instincts that work unconsciously, start to connect with the family and community, but let that not constrain us. Go beyond that, we can go to the whole universe. Okay, but to go there, we have to somehow keep these guys happy so that they don't bother us too much. We have to keep these guys happy so that they don't bother us too much. Then we can connect with the whole universe. Okay, so procreation and survival, sustenance, these are the creaturely instincts. That is, you can epitomized by this sign from Las Vegas. See the three words: beef, booze, and broads. Okay, that's what the focus is. And then third entity, which is works subconsciously, the connection with our own kind. We feel safe in there, but still there's not too much of a love and belonging issue. And then come love and belonging, which is essentially a human trait. We start belonging to our community and our family. We get so comfortable there, but then they can also constrain us, okay? And we have to keep them happy, but also go beyond them. And that is what this proposal is about. And if we don't attend to human instincts, then unity and diversity will just be a cliche. And this is Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. You can see how those instincts become needs. The topmost need is love and belonging, but unconditional. That is what he calls self-actualization. That is the topmost need, but not basic enough. Most people don't get there. Most people live here in the basic needs, which are connected with survival instincts. Then some may live here. A very rare person goes there. Okay, but we have to structure education that we get out of our basic survival needs, get out of our herd identity needs, then it'll be a lot easier for us to transcend, not ignore, but transcend community and family to connect with the universe. Okay, how do these instincts form? In the beginning, that's what we were created, heaven and earth, mind and matter. That's what God created, mind and matter, right in the very beginning, the very day. That's Genesis. This is where the whole thing starts. From one point, with a point has got no dimensions, no visibility. From that point, things start to grow, and then billions of years later, first single cell life form appears. But before that, a few billion years, everything is in a melting pot. There is non-differentiation. There is one unity of existence, no differences, no diversity. And then the diversity or differentiation starts to happen. Okay, it took about 9.5 or 10 billion years for the Earth our planet to appear. And then another 3-4 billion years before life appeared on Earth. Okay, so we have all this memory stored in our genes. Matter, as we said, has got mind, and life has got mind. So memory from one cell life form, then evolution takes over, and then it takes us 3 billion years for humans to appear. So this is 3 to 4 billion years ago, and first human cell appears only about 500,000 years ago. Okay, so all that memory of what we used to be, remember, we are mind and matter. Mind and matter were created on day one. Okay, all this experience of these life forms is part of our genetic memory, which works unconsciously. And those are our instincts. Okay, what are the instincts telling us? Fear, save yourself, be safe, nature is cruel. Okay, and then once you have safety, then look for food. Once food and safety are guaranteed, procreate. That's it. And then when we become animals, okay, get together with our kind and form a herd, and we will be safer. Okay, and then come a human-like form, and it takes about, I don't know, 4 or 5 million years. I don't know how long it took, maybe 6 million years before this is me with a cell phone in his hand, walking around. And from one cell of mine, I grew to 37.2 trillion cells. And that is the biology of growth. You see here in the picture. And as one cell grows to be 37.2 trillion cells, cells collaborate with each other and self-organize so that the community of 37.2 trillion cells can survive. Okay, and that is what I am